Hello, my friends. I want to present you this book, A Knife in the Wind, and explain you what our God did through this book. I am a Christian who loves God and Jesus more than I can say. I worked all my life as an educator for young children and take care of my own family. God chooses me to write His holiness books. 5 years ago, the Lord spoke to me very differently than He used to do before. It was like the sky opened above my head. The Lord brought me to a deeper intimacy in our relation, and He dictated me 4 books in 3 months. One of these 4 books is A Knife in the Wind. I'll show you this holiness book. So I was allowed to ask questions to the Lord, and He answered me by His Holy Spirit. And one of these questions was why the woman should be saved through childbearing. So I asked, Lord, once again I come to you because I would like to Lord, once again I come to you because I would like you to explain to me the verse where Paul writes, yet the woman shall be saved through childbearing. 1 Timothy 2:15. The Holy Spirit answered, my daughter, write down what I'm going to tell you about this verse. This will liberate many women in the church who never got married and therefore never had children and experienced this verse as a curse. Paul was addressing Jewish women who lived according to Jewish laws. As long as they did not convert it Christianity, they remained under the law. Read 1 Corinthians 9 verse 12. On the contrary, we put up with anything rather than hinder the gospel of Christ. This verse is a mystery to Christians who have abandoned their Jewish roots. As Paul writes that he does not have to hinder the gospel, this verse ought not to create an obstacle for salvation for whichever woman that reads it, whether she is a mother or not. Do you think that I could be so unjust as to undiscriminated on the basis of fertility the women who do not have children? But it is I who gives children, so if we follow the logic of this verse, I will be depriving some women of marriage and children in order to keep them from salvation? What God would do such a thing? Not I. However, many women through the centuries have been crushed, humiliated, and even forced to renounce their rights as spouses by wicked, vile men who accuse them of the worst, such as being cursed because they have no salvation without bearing children. I have a particular fondness towards these women who are suffering in the flesh for not having given birth. I will never use such a verse against them. Taken out of its Jewish context, this verse has caused a lot of harm and continues to do it. According to Jewish law, a woman who did not bear her husband children might be repudiated, but this did not mean that she would lose her salvation. Salvation is my gift of grace that I give to whoever I want, according to the state of heart and soul, not according to one's fertility. If this had been the case, should I not equally apply this rule to men, seeing as they too can suffer of infertility? The Jewish law stipulated, among other things, in Numbers 26 and 27, verse 1 to 7, that women were to have the same inheritance that their brothers, uncles, the men from their families or tribes. This was my commandment in order not to give men an advantage over women ever. Therefore, in this passage, these women, the daughters of Zelophehad, came to their father in order to claim their rights as daughters, as the legacy was passed down through the father. However, the affiliation with the Jewish people was transmitted through the mother. In the verse when Paul says, "You will be saved, however, through childbearing," it is speaking about becoming Jewish women who pass on their Jewish laws to their children, and not about the mother bond of blood. Do you understand this? I answered, "Yes, I understand better, but not fully, Lord." The Holy Spirit answered, "This is not the case in Christianity, where we are no longer under the law, but under a new covenant that sets us free from this. Do you think that your children are saved because you are Christian?" I answered, "No, Lord. I will save them by grace and thanks to your prayers, but I want to be loved freely. If today many Christian children spit on their education they have received and reject my word, my commandments, and my love, it is because they are free and not born Christian by blood. Jesus has abolished the law, but let's return to the idea that woman shall be saved, however giving birth. This means that the fact that she is passing on a Jewish education to her children will be counted to her righteousness and a blessing for her salvation, as well as love, teaching, prayer, education, and the example that Christian parents give to their children will be counted as good works practiced in the service of the Lord, because those who do not take care of their own family will be worse off than the pagans. Indeed, pagans are doing the same thing with their children. However, in many cases, especially today, times are so difficult that even though parents do their best to surround their children with this love from God, their children sink in a rebellion that only they are responsible for, and I will hold them accountable. In this present context, not having children is not something we will worry about. Today, some parents live with the agonies of disrespect, insolence, idolatry, and guilt of their own children. I hold accountable the one who is accountable. It has become fashionable to blame parents for their children's wrongdoing. Up until now, I have spared the rod in order to not get angry, but such a lack of respect towards the authority of parents is unprecedented in the history of my church. I cannot accept this anymore. It is a taboo subject in church, which does not have the strength or courage to face, by my grace, this modern spectrum that brings dismay and disrepute on many families, especially on single mothers, without anyone being moved by this. But my heart of father outraged. I won't stand it any longer, and I warn anyone who stands in guilty judgment instead of praying with fervor and trying to provide relief to these families that I will hold everyone accountable.